Can you tell me where you were Friday night?
I was in the city, and then I went to visit my husband.
You mean your ex-husband? It's my understanding that the woman who has gone missing was his nanny.
The book, The Girl on the Train, had all the ingredients of a great thriller, but also really interesting characters at the heart of it.
When I look for material, I always start, no matter what genre, with character and the potential to explore a character and deepen a character. This book was told from the perspective of 3 women, and that really interested me first.
Well, I think what I loved about the book, and actually what I loved about the script, is that it articulately managed to depict broken women, damaged women, and you don't see that in cinema very often. You see these women with all of their complications.
The more you can deepen character and the dramatic elements, the more the thriller aspects just rise to the top.
I'm not the girl I used to be. I think people can see it on my face. I play Rachel. When you meet her, she's riding the train to work every day. We are led to believe that she works in public relations. As the onion unravels, you quickly realize she has a severe drinking problem, and she's the most unreliable witness to what turns out to be a crime. And she's riddled with guilt and loneliness and desperation and the need for love and connection. Sometimes I catch myself trying to remember the last time I had meaningful contact with another person. I think that the interesting thing is that Rachel herself is so unstable and so confused and has a violent past that she herself could be a suspect. I need to remember. I need to remember.
With Rachel, I think she's a victim of her own idealism. She was gonna marry the perfect man, have children, and live on the river. And a lot of times when you hold on to this idyllic setting and it does not go as planned, it's often hard to accept that.
Maintaining my accent for the film is, number one, it's a sort of ode to the book. And I think that Tate liked the idea of me being even more isolated. She feels like a fish out of water. It's a lot of fun to play parts like that because they're so different from you. I felt it, I felt pure rage. I think this character stretched me in ways that I haven't been stretched before. That kind of depth of depression and the sense of being unable to put one foot in front of the other without relying on a drink. It was just an extraordinary experience for me, and one that I definitely needed support in from the other cast members.
Rachel obviously had this more, she has the closeness. You can hardly breathe, she's right there in your face. The major part of this film is all about her mind, and felt like, well, to be able to go in there, we had to be very upfront with her and be very close. And she has a lot of the handheld work where it feels freer and more real and more frantic in a way.
She shot me like this, like, she was just in my face the whole movie. It's lucky we liked each other, because it was like doing a dance. What if Rachel killed Megan?
Rachel did not kill Megan.
Then why is she creeping around Scott's house? She's dangerous and you know it.
What I love about this story is that Emily Blunt's character, Rachel, builds an idea of what it's like between Anna and Tom, and we sometimes don't even know half of it. Anna is living a life that she dreams of and not really feeling that she can control it. She will do anything to have an exterior of perfection, the exterior facade. It is the perfect ring, it's her child, it's the house.
I thought you were happy here. I mean, you seemed happy here.
What happens to you when you realize that what you fought so hard to get isn't what you thought? She got what Rachel wanted, but isn't exactly thrilled with what that looks like.
Let her go, you're gonna hurt her.
Change her hair.
Okay, I'll change it, let her go. You're gonna hurt her.
Rachel and Anna share the same story because they're both in certain ways victimized by this man. And because of this journey, their lives are inextricably bound together by the end of the film.
Take care of yourself, Rachel. How do I create this character who gets to a point where murder is justified? And then you have to work from that point and work yourself backwards to a point where you actually loved someone. Where was the turning point? It's the subtleties of finding the moments where Rachel and Anna connect. We go so intensely into all of these people's fantasies, and that becomes a reality. And I love that.
Anna, she's caged in this house. She's in there, and that was more like a static feel, and she's often behind another layer of like, when, you know, glass or, so something about distance, you know, so very different from Rachel's.
I can't just be a wife anymore. That's why I stay awake at night staring at the ceiling.
With Megan, she's a person who you could consider to have been broken from day one. She is a catalyst to many people. You could apply her state of being to the lives of the people circling her and realize that any and everybody could want something harmful to happen to her for many different reasons.
In Rachel's head, Scott and Megan have what she's always dreamed of. In reality, you know, Megan is in a very unhappy marriage and she's very lonely and she becomes sort of restless and reckless. The relationship between Megan and Tom has been the most difficult for me as an actor. There are things happening that are just like very immoral, and that's been sort of challenging for me to take on. You know, they always say don't judge your character, but it's hard not to judge your character.
And she's this girl that's running away. She's always on the run. We don't know what she's running away from, but we feel this constant searching something or escaping something. Whenever she's on the move, we put on a Steadicam, so there's this floating feel and actually adding a little bit more of that movement, so you know, she doesn't have her feet on the ground.
I think among the three women, all the different complexities and insecurities and vulnerabilities of women are represented in different ways, and it's almost as if the three characters are a composite of one character, and they each share pieces of the other, and yet they're each very different. And that makes for very compelling cinema.
You're lying. You're lying. Tell me what happened.
Allison Janney has been in every single movie I have ever done. In the book, the chief detective was a man, but I thought it would be really interesting to have the chief detective be a woman trying to crack the story of these three women.
I thought it was a fascinating story. I loved everything about it. I thought, well, I should play the part of Rachel. That did not happen that way. Tate and I decided that in Detective Riley's past, either her husband or her father was a drinker and abusive, and so she has a thing about people who abuse alcohol. She's got it out for Rachel.
Don't go anywhere near Anna Watson or her baby. Are you listening to me?
Yes.
You don't live there anymore.
Usually you're casting men and then you cast the girl. And here was, how do we cast what could be the boy in the film or the boys, but still make them really interesting?
It's gonna be fine. Isn't it always fine? Don't they always make everything fine?
I think Justin, in some ways, had the most challenging of roles to play a guy who's really not a good guy. And the fact that he cheated on his wife, he's remarried, he's not nice to his ex just from the get-go, and he manages to pull off essentially a villainous character in a way that's completely likable and completely believable, and you don't see the darker side of him coming.
There's no real moment. There's no like, oh my God, it's that guy or it's this guy. It's this sort of slow laying down of cards, you know, are the thing that finally lead us to our conclusion. You know, the only real decision I had to make was at what point does someone become a murderer? As far as he's concerned, all related to his ego. And if someone's going to sort of, you know, depants him in a way, you know, he makes that sort of snap decision to kill someone.
My wife is dead, and you're lying to me.
Luke Evans plays Megan's husband, and I really wanted someone who had an edge to him, but also could bring the humanity and the sense of loss when a wife is missing, but yet keep you guessing the whole time.
The challenge with the role for me was to not give away too much too early, and you know, try and get the audience on side and then sort of make them question who they want to believe, because for the most of the part of the story, you know, you have to choose who you want to believe. It's an interesting thing to play, knowing that the majority of the audience members watching this film will be suspecting him of being guilty.
You don't have to be afraid of being alone.
You're not alone. I wanted a really sexy, strong actor to play Abdic, and I thought of Edgar Ramirez, and I called Edgar up and I said, Edgar, would it be weird if a Venezuelan had the last name of Abdic, first name Kamal? He goes, absolutely not, we're a melting pot. I could totally be Kamal Abdic. And I said, all right, come on up.
As an actor, you listen a lot, and that's what a therapist does. And it was very interesting for me also to explore something that I've never done before.
You want to talk about that?
Movies are hard to make, and therefore I think my philosophy is they should be fun. My sets are very loose, they're very fun, they're very relaxed, very collaborative situation.
I really love working with Tate. He's very sensitive and very courageous and daring. And I think that those elements are pivotal to tell a story like this.
I think what's so special about Tate's films, they are as equally fun and entertaining, no matter how dark the subject matter is.
He sees the big picture. I've never seen anyone with such sight. I mean, there's a reason to why we do everything.
It was a really fun set. It was definitely a set where you felt emboldened to try anything, and Tate didn't straitjacket any of us in any way. What I needed more than anything to play this part was confidence, and I think that it was a set that was infused with that for everybody.
A lot of the film is like a puzzle, and there are little pieces that come into focus and then they sort of rack out of focus, and then other pieces come in. In the midst of this thriller, the frailty of human nature and the way that we all can second guess ourselves, and ultimately that triumph, I think, is very empowering.